This is really good.
Okay.
This is good. I will be right back. You let people in.
Okay.
You'll let them in and host everyone.
I can do that. So you want me to start letting everybody in?
Yeah, I'll be right back.
All right, I can do that.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
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 Oh, I like that dog there.
Oh, yeah.
We're dog sitting two. We're dog sitting two very active boxers, and so Liz is watching them while I come to Saturday service.
We have two kitties that are about 6 years old, and one has FIV, and the other one is stubborn as all, doesn't want anything to do with new kitty. And so I'm separate now,
Ladies,
playing with the other kitty,
my dear
so that
friends, beloved community. It is at 8 o'clock time, so I'm going to start talking here. And it's one thing I do. Hi, it's me, Rabbi Brian. And I got friends, and I'm going to show the screen with everyone else in a second. I got a quote straight in front of my face, so I think we should start with that.
Read it.
It says, the feeling of being hurried is not usually the result of living a full life and having no time. I'm going to read that sentence again because I'm actually not going to read the third sentence in the quote because it gets confusing. So I'm going to reread the first one, then we'll do the second one. So we'll do 3 lines of it. The feeling of being hurried is not usually the result of living a full life and having no time. It is, on the contrary, born of a vague fear that we are wasting our life. The feeling of being hurried is not usually the result of living a full life and having no time. Agree?
Right.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Objects? And abstains. How many abstains? There were a bunch of abstains on that one, I think. Feeling of being hurried is not usually the result of living a full life and having no time.
You know, when I feel hurried, I don't feel like I'm living a full life.
That's what we're saying, right? Who said that?
Jocelyn.
Thanks, Jocelyn.
Jocelyn.
The feeling of being hurried is not the result of living a full life. We're living a full life when we have a little bit more spaciousness. Okay, folks, we're going to try an experiment this morning. There's a lot I want to talk about. One is how do you deal when something doesn't feel exactly like...
Oh,
okay?
Lord.
I'm going to ask you guys a second to just stay with my narrative here.
Okay.
I had and then I thought, why do I have to tell them the whole thing with the bird? Do they need to really know? And then I thought, why, Rabbi, are you making up a thing with the bird? I had a skin cancer removal, and I feel uncomfortable, and I.
Rabbi, once again, I can't hear you very well compared to everybody else. Your volume's low.
All right. Thank you for reminding me, Derek. Anyway, I'm going to ask that we're not paying attention to my face. That's not why we're gathered here. But my face does feel your love. So thank you. And a little special thank you to, I have my friend Ann, who I know is watching, who's not watching this live. Let me move. Oh, I'm getting a little emotional here. So hold on one second. That's the one where we can see everyone. There's everyone who's at the service. Oh no, that's the one I don't want to have happen.
Well,
it's the multiverse.
Oh, dear.
Did we fix that? Thank you, Alex.
Yeah, change back to gallery. You can change the gallery view now.
I can change back to gallery view now. So we're going to go and talk about something really. We have so much I want to talk about. So much to talk about, and I have all my cards and all my notes of the things I wanted to talk about. And I wanted to review about time boundaries, and I wanted to talk about last week's homework, and I don't have a chance to collect it just yet today. So just hand it in next week, your spiritual religious homework, the thing that you were going to do to help your spiritual religious life, whatever that was from last week. I assume you did it. Your homework is to add in 2.5 more minutes of spiritual religious goodness, and do 5 sacred thank yous. That's 5 thank yous that actually come from your heart. So do that for next week, and then we'll talk about the last week's homework. So much I wanted to talk about, and then I came to a card, and it said on it, pain and suffering. And I thought, and I wrote my next thought. You can see it there in the green. I'm going to try to move my camera back to my normal one.
Yes, back to your normal view. There you go.
It says no time for pain and suffering. And so I took this card and I was going to put it out. And I thought, no, there's no time for pain and suffering. And I thought, when in human existence has that phrase been said? We don't have time for pain and suffering. And so then I spoke to somebody in my house who's a grief and loss expert and therapist. And I said, Janie, I'm suffering. I got pain and suffering, and I have friends on a Saturday morning who we all have some pain and suffering. And I know you do this for a living. And I know that you have... She's a grief and loss counselor. This is what she does. And she gets bled out. And I said, I don't need you to do this. But if you would you help us all some about how to deal with pain and suffering? There's the knock on the door. This is the most Mr. Rogers-like moment we've ever had. But
Welcome.
I'm going to ask you the same way that I asked that we didn't make a spectacle on my face, that we're not, yes, we're all very super excited to see Jane, but we're also, but let's also,
I'm not in view.
All about me.
There we go. Okay.
So I asked Jane to help us some, and I was going to bring us right to the pies, the 4 quadrants.
I'm sorry, I'm not supposed to react to his sad face. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Hi. I'll tell you, I'm not a teacher. So, he's the teacher. Sides. Why did you switch? Oh, because of your...
So I could write this and...
Oh, you're right. Okay. Yeah, see, he's the writer. I don't sit around with notes or anything. But Brian came in and was asking me questions, and it was very interesting because our conversation, just to look at it meta, he was talking to me about pain and suffering, and he kept going back to this word numb. And he was like, so everybody's numb. And I was saying, no. Not everybody's numb. And he was saying, but everybody's numb. And so how do we do this numbness thing? And I was like, not everybody's numb. And then I finally said to him, you're numb. He's numb, right? So I thought it would be helpful. I spent, I'm a kind of therapist that I don't do relationship problems necessarily as the focus of my work. I'm not a couples therapist. I'm not a family therapist, but I work in grief and loss. So this week, when you experience grief in the moment, it often brings up grief from the past. So you can imagine that this week for me was most of my clients coming and wanting to talk about the shooting. So I would say that I spent about 15 hours this week talking about it. And I had not a a fucking solution to offer, but as Brian and I were talking, I thought that I would offer like a framework, because his question was, what was your question? What was your question for me?
I think it was just help.
Like, it was like, how to, like, do you have any tips? And I was like, tips? Like, what?
I came in from a walk and I thought, I don't know how I feel about this. And then I was taken by the contrariness of knowing I don't know how I feel. Maybe I'm doing it backwards. Like, I'm trying to know how I feel. I'm not.
Is that one of the stages of grief?
Yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there. Get there. Take all. That's a great question, and we'll get to it. It'll be the third part of 4 things.
So I was thinking, how am I feeling? And I wanted to, well, that's, I think, using the wrong tool. Was I was trying to think, how am I feeling, which I think can jumpstart it, but I don't think I was just about to say, I don't think I know how I feel. So I don't think, and I don't know how I feel. That's what I came in.
So Brian and I were going back and forth, and oh, sorry, there's one of my menopause alarms. Hold on, let's see what am I. Oh, there we go.
Rabbi, did you turn on your streaming?
Is streaming not on?
I didn't see the usual notification come up on Facebook, and somebody has asked in the chat if you needed to turn on the recording.
Oh, I don't know.
I don't care if it's not recorded. It's not recorded. I don't.
Alex, I would actually prefer to not. I don't like being recorded. Fine. I don't, not so much for public stuff. So as we were talking, I began to sort of think of like, what was I hearing in my office this week? Because in a week like this, much like after 9/11, much like after Sandy Hook, I'm sitting with very little, I don't know how to handle this. So the conversation sort of gave me a lot of perspective on where everybody's at. And
so let me go back to something you said, that we all, so any of us who have are traumatized, it gets re-triggered. The grief
or the trauma, right? If you listen to any of the Sandy Hook parents this week, they were a mess, right? If you've had a senseless loss of somebody, this week is going to bring up all sorts of sorrow. If you're aging and you're looking at the world and wondering what is going on, a week like this is going to be rough. If you're middle-aged and have another good, I don't know, I'm bad at math, a third of your life left, you're going to be confused. And if you're young, you're going to be confused too. So I thought about...
So basically, it's
good
rough.
News. It's good. So what I thought about was, when Brian and I were trained in some grief work, we were taught this idea. I think you've talked about this before, about the 4 quadrants of life. And it moves through developmentally how we grow as individuals, right? And the first quadrant is the physical quadrant, right? We're born, we have physical needs. It's actually quite simple. We have needs for feedback. We have needs for food, shelter, clothing, warmth. The second is the emotional, which is where our parents ideally, or our caregivers, are reflecting back our feelings to us in appropriate ways. As we begin to tantrum, as we begin to understand that we're not always going to get what we want, as we begin to understand and put words to, I'm hungry, I want this, I had a toy, it got taken away, all the feelings.
Can I interrupt for a sec?
Above that is physical.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I'm missing one already.
Physical. Okay.
Physical. Wait, I'm on the review. Physical, emotional. Emotional was all the feelings.
Right. And I'll get into each one when we're done. And then the third is the intellectual, right? We get into being 4, 5. We begin to learn how to read. We're beginning to put letters together. We're beginning to have ideas about things formed by thoughts, right? We're beginning to get many opinions, which is great. And then that grows, right? We're in school, we get jobs, we have experiences, we do the things that we do. And then the spiritual is this fourth quadrant, which is about, I believe, and it has religion sort of sprinkles interesting juice all over this, but the spiritual for me is the part of my life where I am seeking to find answers to unanswerable questions, answers to all the mysteries, right? Why are we born? Why do we die? Why do I experience loss? Why do I experience all the stuff that is so baffling in life, right? Why do bad people exist? Do bad people exist? How do I be a good person? All that stuff. So to go back up to the physical, if we take a week like this, right? I would say, I would expand it because I'm a little political. I would say, first of all, if you're a person in an oppressed or minority grouping, this physical part is just how you've lived, right? And the physical is how we take things in and what we need in response. So, how are we with sleep? Where are we with food and shelter? But then how does our body take in things, right? So I would say as a white, cis, healthy, privileged woman, that the past 6 years have been devastating to my nervous system. And I do not have a history of trauma. It's been devastating. Fight, flight, freeze, right? Fight, flight, freeze is our nervous system. One part of our nervous system, it's part of a nerve that exists up from our spine down to our base of our butt. And it's how our body takes in what happens. In a week like this, Tuesday morning, I had just seen my father, who's 90. I had just found out that a person very important to him had died, right? I was already in a little bit of good amount of grief. And I start my day and I go into work. And I can't remember what time I saw about the shooting in between clients because I'm a news junkie, and which is horrible for my physicality. And I'm shot into, I think I was shot into fight initially, right? We move from fight, flight, freeze. So there's the physical part. What I heard this from a lot from my clients, mostly because we talk about it a lot, which is what was happening in our bodies as we were learning, right? Was it shutdown? Was it rage? Was it activation? Was it a sense of anxiety? Like, oh my God, right? These are physical manifestations. And then we moved into the emotional, right? And none of this happens in order to answer the question of the stages of grief. So you can start with the intellectual and start thinking about gun control and common sense gun laws and everything. You can hit first on the emotional, right? Or you can hit on the physical.
You saw the problem. Yeah, but it's easy you want.
Feeling totally panicked and or feeling absolutely like you want to run from the room screaming, or completely shut down. So, right, how's that?
It's good. I just want to take a moment for a breath.
Okay.
Check in. Just look at all your faces who I can see. Okay. Hi. Keep going. Okay.
Keep going, please.
So then we're physical, right? Our physical body, how our nervous system is responding. Then we get into the feelings, right? And that was what was so great with Brian, because this morning when he kept saying everybody's numb, and yesterday I would say 3 of the conversations were with people who had been numb, had initially felt anger, but had dropped into complete sorrow. Because I looked at him and I said, I'm not numb. I'm not numb at all. I'm in utter sorrow.
Yeah, but the thing is, everybody's numb.
No, that's you. You go to numb. I used to go to angry first and then sad until like a good therapist commented on it. So now I'm better at getting to sad first and then I get angry. But the feelings and those feelings fluctuate. Brian said, well, we need a tip. And I said, well, it's every half hour, say, checking in.
Okay, I had never heard that. You said it like, yeah, come on, Brian. Everyone, like every half hour, checking in.
He does this to me about spiritual stuff. He'll walk in and say, do you know the conceptualization of, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. So our feelings are the sort of nuanced part. And then we get into the intellectual, right? Where lots of us, I'm sure, have spent time too, right? What is the state of the world? How do we conceptualize what is happening? How do we make sense of the gaslighting and a lot of the hypocrisy and the mixed messages? And what do we do about it? And how do we understand as information comes in? And how are we going to put a frame around this so that we understand? And here's where the spiritual kicks in. Once we're adults, we pretty much can guess that we are going to lose people or we're going to die through a number of life normative ways.
What does that mean, life normative?
Illness.
Oh.
That illness is going to take you out. That old age is going to take you out, right? That accidents, right? Like our son, when he used to watch Thomas the Train, they had a great song. Accidents happen time and again, right? Accidents. There's no malice. But you're driving, and there's even manslaughter where it's an accident. It's a mess up, right? What happened this week is senseless. What happened this week makes no sense. What happened this week is terror. So there is no making sense of it. There is no intellectual. I cannot give you an intellectual
is right. So
human-based reason why children were blown apart with their teacher, and then their teacher's husband died of a heart attack after it. So I can feel all the feelings. I certainly feel my body reacting, right? Even as I'm talking, I like, what is it? Sometimes I don't know what I'm feeling, so I just say, what is my body feeling? Like, whoa.
Okay, so that goes back to the every half hour thing.
Right, it's just checking in.
I don't know if I'm supposed to look at you over there or I'm supposed to look, ow.
That's the thing. It's what do you do when you check in with yourself?
So every half hour I say, ding dong, how am I?
You love a good system. Yes, every half hour. He really does, and he mocks me for wanting systems. I just
appreciate the upgrade
from
schemes.
So you check in, right? Because the spiritual practice in this, dealing with something that makes no sense, dealing with something that, the thing that I heard in my office this week, the question that kept arising was, I both felt addicted to the news and didn't want to read it. And then I thought, if I was the parent of one of those children, how would I feel if the majority of the world just said the next morning, I can't handle that, right? So the question that arose was, how do I hold that suffering and honor those parents and stay with them? How do I function in my life with something that happened that was so nonsensical and so brutal? And then what is the spiritual practice so that I don't become dead inside? A huge theme in my office this week of, I don't want to become dead inside, but I don't know how to titrate all of this. Like, what is the practice?
So I have a question.
Yeah.
I want to say my thoughts and prayers are with people.
Mm-hmm.
But I also know that that's just stupid words, but that's what I want to say. That feels like the bomb.
But it's easy to say thoughts and prayers, but are you really sitting for 5 minutes and communing with the father who lost their whose 8-year-old was
I can't even.
shattered,
Can't even.
right?
Right, and so so am I sitting in that much discomfort for 5 minutes? No.
Right. And then for me, I'm very lean towards action, although I'm wholly imperfect at it. But am I actually, getting off my fat ass and doing anything about it? Right? Because posting about on Facebook. Now, by the way, I could talk about this for hours. I find that very comforting. I have several friends this week who could not talk about it. We were all supposed to get together for a beer on Wednesday night, and ended up being 2 of us who could talk about it. Because otherwise I would have felt messed up not talking about it. My friends would have felt traumatized talking about it. So we all just had to make those choices. But the question for when we're all together next week is, what are we doing? Right? What are we doing? Spiritually, how do you hold it so you don't become dead inside? Faith without works. I think spirituality without works and action is great. But for me, it doesn't do anything because the panic lingers. So thoughts and prayers are really important, but are you really sitting and thinking? Pema Chodron, which maybe would be a cool thing to talk about sometime, has this way of meditation called Tonglen, which is where you actually commune with the pain in the world. Because in any moment when you're feeling what you're feeling, there are other sentient beings feeling what you're feeling. And I'm probably...
Jane, can I ask a quick, can you spell the T word you just said,
yeah,
Tonglen?
Tonglen. Tonglen.
Thank you.
And I promise you, Joe, I promise you that I am probably just completely ruining this great Buddhist teacher's teaching by trying to describe it. But what you do is, instead of, taking in bright light and blowing out your crap into the world, you actually take in all the pain for the moment and then blow out your light. Like give out, connect with. So, but that's just, so I guess what I'm saying is we're bouncing all the time. We're bouncing all the time between these parts of ourselves. If I think about the shooting too much, and I think about my myriad of existential terror, my nervous system can go crazy, right? If I stay in the emotions, well, I don't mind staying in the emotions, but it's a skill to learn how to just tolerate, to just sit with. I described it to Brian like this. When Emmett used to tantrum, he would, right? He was between that physical time and learning about his emotions. I didn't watch his body writhing on the floor, because Emmett would get confused, or something would go away, or he would get something he didn't want, and he would begin to have all the reactions, and he would drop to the floor, and he would get bereft. He would just collapse, no matter what, even if he was mad. Annie was completely different. She would collapse on the floor and then look up with a burning rage in her face, right? Scared the crap out of Brian, right? He would go, oh my God, she's so angry. But we didn't sit and say, we didn't think, yep, there they are on their, on the ground there. And then we didn't look at them and just say, yeah, you're on the ground. Yeah, you're on the ground because it's solid and it's beneath us. And there's this thing called gravity, and da-da-da. We would get down on the ground with them and say, hey, you've got so many feelings. You look at how many feelings right now. You seem so sad. Maybe maybe you're angry in your body, right? And that's a little bit of what our task is as grown-ups, is to do the same thing. I don't know if this is helpful at all, but that's just
yes,
sort of,
yes, it is.
Very,
yes, it is.
very.
So here's a I would be of help for Jane and to help all of us, for what is a sentence that you just got from what Jane said? Look at that mess.
I can't see the mess. It just is so disturbing.
Okay, that might be the mess but I'm hoping you got some other quote. So what's one sentence that you can say? Let's take a minute, everyone write down a sentence. If one sentence of one thing that you learned. It'll give another 30 seconds or so. I thought about advertising the Saturday service as the only regular religious service with 95% new content weekly. That's all fine. All right, here we go. Let's get a litany of learning. A litany of learning, starting with, I did see somebody's hand. Oh, there you
Ron
go.
has his hand up.
Go ahead, Ron.
Where's Ron?
Let myself feel instead of intellectualizing.
Let myself feel instead of intellectualize it. That's fantastic. What else did you get?
Identifying feelings.
Yeah, the importance of identifying the feelings so you know how you are. And also the way that it's done, right? Oh, look, you're on the floor, or, oh, look, you're on the floor. How important that voice is, getting that voice right. What else did you get? Let's get 2 more sentences that you picked up. Anything. Yeah, Emily.
Give words to the feelings that you observe.
Give words to the feelings you observe.
You have to physically contact with the pain.
Yeah. And if you can get us back to regular view, Alex.
Okay. Work on it.
Physical connection, yes, with the pain, but also a both and knowing where I can connect for, like literally commune with it for 5 minutes and give that 5 minutes my all to love the people that are suffering. But then I know that for my own self, then I need to back away. I've done that. Like, that's how I can help them move away, go back to my own life.
Yeah.
Joe, that is so perfect. I have a very dear friend here who is like a hummingbird, and I'm more like a sloth. And so when she's having all the disillusionment, right? She's having all the physical reaction to the trauma. She's having all the emotions, right? She's absolutely baffled intellectually. What she does is she goes for walks. So I'll say to her, "What are you up to?" She's like, "I'm in the middle of a 4-mile walk." She'll say to me, I might be having exactly the same response. And she'll say to me, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "I've been on the couch, not even watching TV, for an hour and 15 minutes thinking about getting off the couch," right? Her task, and we really aggravate each other completely. I don't know why we're friends. We really aggravate each other. Because my task always with her is to say, "Could you sit down for a second? I don't want to walk. I want to sit. I'm on the edge of tears." And she says to me, "Could you get your fat ass up off the couch? Because I don't want to sit. I'm near tears," right? And our task individually is to both honor that, but I have to look at, like, my orientation is to freeze and kind of be angry on the couch. Hers is really to freeze and be anxious and leave the house.
And I'm going to tie back to what I said at the very beginning, the quote that I had on the screen. Mine is to get so fucking busy that I don't have to feel anything because I'm doing so many things and I have to keep track of all that. So I'm busy. And busy's just a drug.
No, that's not me.
Oh, I didn't.
Yeah, no, I wish I had that.
You do.
I'd like to do the walking thing. It sounds interesting. So I think, Joe, it is that, asking yourself, you don't, we didn't leave our kids on the ground tantruming. And I'm sure plenty of us were raised that way. But ideally, you don't leave your kid on the ground tantruming. You don't leave your grandchild on the ground tantruming. You talk them through it. You figure out what they need, right?
I'll just spin that. And for us, that's at the heart of our own self-care, is catching ourselves and not doing that and learning. And it's the folks, I'm going to bring in my French horn to prove a lesson. I can play the French horn well enough now because I practiced it. You got to practice being kind to yourself.
Well, yes. You and I are so interesting. Yes. And after you do that, I can be super kind to myself, but often my kindness would mean that right now it's 8:34 and I go upstairs and I get this book that I'm semi-enjoying, but it kind of kills time. But actually I have an exercise class at 9. And self-care, in fact, is carrying myself to the exercise class, sitting through the first 15 minutes, which is my experience of exercising every single time since I was born, which really just means I've only been exercising since I was 46, and hating it, but getting through that, right? It means for me today, and I don't say this like some sort of spiritual Pollyanna, but, I had a great experience in Al-Anon, right? The group for families and friends of people with addictions. And the thing I learned then was, from people much wiser than me, was find a way to be of service. There's no common sense gun stuff happening in Portland this weekend. There's some stuff I can do online. There's some donations we can make. But we have friends down the street who moved into a total fixer-upper. And we have a lot of stuff with the kids today, but I have an hour to throw on some really crappy pants and go do a bad job painting their dining room, which they're grateful for.
Do you know what I'm going to... Well, I'll tell her afterwards. I was going to get involved. That's important.
So what happens whenever I read Brian's articles is that I love them. But we always, whenever he says, could you give me some thoughts on that? At the end, I always say, like, you have to, I think the spiritual life is both one of reflection and self-knowledge. And then communing
more than that
with others. And then for me, it always goes back to action. But that's just our different, and you're not anti-action. It's just immediately where I go.
Censoring myself on was the fact that when I'm out at Miss Teacher Lisa's, I'm going to go canvas door to door for gun action.
Right.
But I don't want to say that because I don't want to sound like I'm showboating.
No. That's all right. This is your people. But yeah, and then you say, right, he just said I'm gonna do some canvassing today, and then I feel like a moron. Then I feel like an idiot, like I'm not doing that, which I guess is another spiritual question.
Yeah, but the only reason I'm politically active is she thinks it's sexy.
It is true.
Good reason as any.
Motivation.
I also though have, thank you, Aaron. I also have to say though that I was a single woman at 25 who thought he was cute, and then I saw nice not Jewish girl, and then I saw him in his robes on a Friday night for something, and I was like hubba. So we're very.
Yeah, that's weird.
It was so weird.
Bob has his hand up.
Good weird.
Yeah, Bob. Thank you, Bob. Bob?
Yeah, I think that, in the discussion about what has happened, that certainly the people that were affected by that are need to have our support and love. But I think that sometimes what we overlook is the person that caused the problem. Mm-hmm. In other words, in this case, the shooter. Mm-hmm. And just what was missing in that person's life, what love was not there, mm-hmm. what caused these things to happen. And that, again, we go back to the great commandment, so to say, of love your neighbor as yourself and love your God. And that not that we love the action, but what was missing in that person's life that was lacking in the love
Yep.
And what can we do as a society and a community to help expand our love and help people who are challenged know that they can experience some love, you know, and so those are things that I think that we can tend to overlook in times like this because of the grief and things of the people who are suffering now.
Thank you, Bob.
I think that, Bob, that is what I love about that. What I love about what you just said is that you have to dabble in all the different areas, right? To consider that, right? You have to sit in, you know, my defensive posture wants to other, right? And I'm really much better than he is at othering. And then emotionally I'm angry, but I'm also devastated. And then all of a sudden my intellect goes, well, you know, this and that and this and that, and he. And then I think the spiritual work is what is my obligation to hold him as well? Mm-hmm. To hold, you know, I had one person that I work with this week sort of throw their hands up at one point and say, you know, all this talk about getting involved, well, you know, might mean, you know, being nicer to the person, being nicer to my friends' kids, right? Mm-hmm. Asking them how they are, understanding that they're teenagers and will barely want to talk to me, but changing myself to make more of a connection with them, right? Mm-hmm. So it's not, it is, I mean, you sort of swept through from the physical to the emotional, the intellectual, up to the spiritual of how do you sit with this and what do you hold? Everyone, I have to go, and I'm going to go and I'll lift a weight in honor of you. And the first 15 minutes when I hate it, I won't be thinking of you because I've enjoyed this. But take good care of your hearts. Don't become
you need
cold.
A catchphrase, don't you?
Yeah, that's my that's my new catchphrase. Hey kids, you take care of your hearts. How absolutely.
Don't become cold free.
Yeah. Let's not become the walking. You know, let's not become sort of zombies. Right? It's not a good look. So, okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Jane.
Bye,
Thank you, Jane.
Thank you, Jane.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Jane.
Come again. Don't make Rabbi laugh.
Why?
I thought that you were hurting.
It does.
Oh, yeah, that could be.
All right. Wow.
It was great.
Yeah.
You could be a regular guest here, Rabbi. It'll be fine.
Yes.
Hey, that was something new.
It was something very new and absolutely lovely.
Yeah.
Rabbi?
Yeah. Kip?
I just wanted to thank Bob for putting that out there. I was thinking that as well. And when I think about the suffering of this situation, which is just horrific, you know, whatever drove these people to do these shootings, that suffering is a lifetime. And it's so huge that it would make a human being do these atrocious acts. And I appreciate Bob having the courage to speak up. And I wanted to kind of second that I think having the compassion to find that root cause of, you know, what drove these people to do these just horrific acts. That's how we really stop the problem. And I'm all for gun control and all that, but ultimately people find another way to inflict injury if they're suffering that badly.
Yep.
I guess more than anything, what I'm trying to say is there's nothing fundamentally wrong with anybody. Whatever happened to that person warped them, in my opinion, and hurt them so badly they had to lash out that badly.
Thank you.
Carol has her hand up.
Go, Carol. Oh, you're on mute, though, my friend.
Someone has pointed out that reaction to Texas is much stronger than reaction to Buffalo, and could that possibly indicate that we are still racists.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
I think it has to do more with children.
Yeah.
There's also children. It's I mean, right? Shit, like we shouldn't.
Jocelyn has her hand up.
Go ahead, Jocelyn.
There was one point I really wanted to make when they were talking about a spiritual part in religion. Honestly, I personally think that coming from I'm not even going to go into that, but community is so extraordinarily important to me in times that I can't meditate, because I can listen to the wise people around me at least.
Amen.
And so that to me is one of the critical parts of spirituality that I strive for.
Yeah.
Is that community.
Yeah. And we have that here. It's being witnessed. Go ahead, Bob.
Yes, on another note, you asked to bring a family member along.
Yes.
And I would like to introduce my brother, Nick Schaefer, who is on with us today.
Hi, Nick.
Uncle Nick.
Well, that is fantastic.
Welcome.
Hola.
I have a
Hello,
prize
Nick.
for you.
Hello.
There you go. I'm gonna put right here a superstar. There you go. Wait a second. This one's not coming up. There we go. There we are. Superstar.
Dun dun.
Nick. For being Nick.
Perfect.
I'm just going to sign that and I'll put today's date.
And Nick lives up near you guys in Sequim, Washington.
Oh, wonderful. Well, glad you're here, Nick. This is what we usually do. By which, I mean, we do whatever. There's not a usual. I don't think we do a usual, except we just have some good people here. Do you want to add in anything, Nick? You don't have to.
It's interesting. I enjoy the conferencing right now, so I just curious to see what it's about. But so far, it's very interesting.
Yeah, that's what we're doing. That's good. So here's next. Who else? Who needs one? I got. What are they? There's 35 more of them. Anyone feel? And that's a vulnerable thing, right? What I'm asking you to do right now. Yeah, Aaron.
Hey.
Aaron, congratulations. Tell us why.
Remember the question I asked on the board? How to be nice to myself?
Yeah.
So this is a little bit.
I'm going to call it for uncorking. I got to spell corking right. Uncorking the kind to self.
Thank you.
I'll sign that, make it legitimate. It's all in the signature, folks. I'll get that to you, Aaron. That's yours.
Thank you.
Good job. Like, I know it's stupid. Aaron's not dumb. We all know it's stupid, but we want some recognition. Why not? Let's get some.
I'm trying to practice.
You're doing probably it, man. Silly, but not stupid.
Okay.
Yeah, not stupid.
Okay, maybe I have some idea what I'm actually doing here.
Silly is nice.
All right, let's not debate the word. Let's get back to the matter at heart. Any of the people who just spoke, maybe some of you secretly wanted to nominate yourself for a superstar award.
Ooh.
No? Well,
sounds like Emily might want to.
Emily,
yeah, I want one.
You do? All right,
yeah.
Emily.
Yes, I want one. Yes.
Would it help to say why, or just because just for asking?
Yeah, just for acting and just because I want one. Oh my. It's enough. It's enough just to want it. My.
You're trying to be an extrovert, right?
You guys do
did
know
you
what an
hear-
expert is, right?
Yes.
An expert is a worn out drift.
Extrovert, not expert.
No, expert.
Expert.
Oh, okay.
Expert.
Okay.
Expert.
Gosh, that's a very bad.
Emily, do you guys see what Emily did here? Wait, there's a quote. Shit. Oh my gosh. Wait a second. Here it comes. F. Scott Fitzgerald. For what it's worth, it's never too late, or in my case, too early, to be whoever you want to be. There's no time limit. Start where and whenever you want. You can change or stay the same. There are no rules to this thing. We can make the best or worst of it. I hope you make the best of it. I hope you see things that startle you. I hope you feel things you've never felt before. I hope you meet people who have different point of view. I hope you live a life you're proud of. And if you're not, I hope you have the courage to start over again.
I like that. Bueno.
For what it's worth, it's never too late, or in my case, too early, to be whoever you want to be. There's no time limit. Start with wherever you want. You can change or stay the same. There are no rules to this thing. We can make the best or worst of it. I hope you make the best of it. I hope you'll see things that startle you. I hope you'll feel things you've never felt before. I hope you meet people who have different point of view. I hope you live a life you're proud of. And if you're not, I hope you have the courage to start over again.
Rabbi, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I saw something in the chat that I think I want to call to your attention. Cantor Mark posted that today is my father's yard site.
Oh, Mark. Wow. Well, I cannot deny that request. So let me explain what's just about to happen, folks. I have a colleague who I worked with for years, and he just called in a favor. And I'm going to set this all up. We're taking this religious rocket ship to where it goes. So just...
How can we help?
Just bear with me as I get onto the one
How can I help?
Bear with. So there's a prayer that's said for the deceased.
Yes, kiddo.
And it has to be said... Oh, I'm in the wrong book. There are some rules to how it gets said. Now, it's not actually Hebrew, so I'm going to...
Aramaic.
Yeah, it's Aramaic, and the only reason you care about that at all is because of languages Jesus spoke. Aramaic was the one. It's a variant like Hebrew. It's a whole thing. So this is a prayer for... Which way am I going here? Some of the... So it is the anniversary of Mark's dad's death. And I got put in an awkward situation.
Isn't that always the case?
Let me try this one. There we go. So I am going to say this prayer. There I am. And before I do it, there's a quote that I'm following. And the quote that I used to teach by, which was, "There is no lesson in algebra that should not be interrupted for a lesson in humanity."
Amen.
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 Amen. Amen.
So here is the mourner's Kaddish. Before I say it, I want to ask all of y'all, think of that person, that constellation of personages who live in your heart, in that open part where you keep memories of lost souls, where those beautiful ones are within you. I ask you to think of those people, think of their names. I'm going to say these words. If you know the Aramaic, I ask you to say it along, but quiet, so the microphone mainly picks me up because it's already weird enough. And if you don't know the words, I always think it's important to know what it is you're being encanted to hear. They're all words about God's greatness. There's no words about mourning at all, actually, in it. And it's there's some stanzas, history. Let's just turn our thoughts to those who are now among the dearly departed. And we, of course, add to those the children of Uvalde, and we add the African-American families in Buffalo, and all those who are dear in our hearts. Now I'm going to say the words, Yit Gadal v'Yit Gadash Shemei Rabbah B'Yamad Yivrach Hirotei V'Yamich Malchutei B'Chai Echon V'Yom Echon Chaye Dekol Beit Yisrael B'Galai Zman Kari V'Imru Amen.
Amen.
Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mevarach Le'olam Almei Almaya Yit Barach V'Yishtabach V'Yit Pa'ar V'Yit Naman Yit Naseh V'Yitadar V'Yitaleh V'Yitalal Shemei Kudisha Brichu Liam Lamim Kol Berchata B'Shirata Tush Bechata V'Nechemata Damran V'Yama V'Imru Amen.
Amen.
Yehei Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya V'Chaim Aleinu V'Yokol Yisrael V'Imru Amen.
Amen.
Osei Shalom B'Mamav Hu Ya'aseh Shalom Aleinu V'Yokol Yisrael V'Yokol B'nei Adam V'Imru Amen.
Amen.
May God, who grants peace to those who mourn, give comfort to those bereaved among us, and together we all say, Amen.
Amen.
Okay.
A little bit of business to attend to. If you don't feel you're right with your donations to Religion Outside the Box, let's make them right. It's hard to figure out. We're not from one culture here. Some people are used to a tithing system. Some people are used to passing baskets. Some people are invited to being. Figure out what works for you. I'm glad to help on that too.
Joe's list.
Yeah, we didn't do Joe's list.
Good way to go out.
Yeah.
Hey. Candace C., Alex, Diane, Amy, Helen M., Rita S., Kathleen Brooks, Eileen, Abbas, April, Derek, Larry, Virginia, Lauren N., Lauren L., Francis, Maria, Lee, the people in Texas, the people in Buffalo, the people in Ukraine, the people in Russia, Shirley W., Afia, people struggling with COVID, Ron, Elizabeth, Rita W., Rabbi Brian, and Robin.
Amen.
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 Let's take a minute at a time, starting when my clock gets to 30 seconds. Okay. Thank you. At the risk of sounding like an airline at the end of a flight, you have many choices when it comes to filling your spiritual religious needs. I appreciate you spending some time with me.
Amen.
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 Stick around. We have another hour coming up with small groups. I stick around for the first 15 minutes while I post the video if you want to say something in private towards me. And then come hang out at the clubhouse. The Shekhinah group now has its own page there. And if you, and yeah, that's good enough for me, folks.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you.
See ya.
Healing.
Put your seats in the full and upright position.
And bring up your tray table.